said, I'm just privileged to be on the flyer. So y'all, thank you again for an amazing opportunity. The relationship with University of Tennessee Martin goes back to when Anthony Pruitt was working here. I was just so excited when I got that first invitation. While it was a virtual event, I said, man, he must know a lot of people, because as it streamed out, the comments was just on fire. So I'm so excited to be here in person this year and see that we're really just working through this unprecedented time we call a pandemic, but we're actually navigating it in a way where we still can bring quality co-curricular programming to our institutions. And so in the conversations about me, just to give a little context of my background, I'm a hometown country boy. From Natchitoches, Louisiana. I moved to South Louisiana in my teenage years. So what that translates is, that'll give you the context of some of my examples, some of my conversation. But if you don't remember anything else, I can make a mean gumbo. And so if you ever doubt, I promise you, I brown that flour, I make that roux. We don't boil no chicken, we show out now. Put it over white rice. So if you ever make it to Louisiana, I'm on LinkedIn, you be sure I feed you good. I got y'all. That's my commitment to you tonight. And so what are we talking about tonight? What is our conversation centered around? In the last 5 years, we've seen growth in cancel culture. We've seen the power of cancel culture. And while I would love to get on the stage and tell you a list of pros or cons about it, I think tonight I want to give you some tools to really just navigate. Has cancel culture been a benefit to our communities? Has it been a crutch for our communities? Or how has it enhanced or not enhanced our communities? Context in my opening conversation, I'd like to tell you I moved from South Florida. I work for Florida International University, get the opportunity to serve as one of the assistant vice presidents in academic affairs. And through negotiations during COVID, I got to relocate to South Louisiana and still maintain my job. Y'all, that was a hell of a negotiation, so we'll talk about that later. Through the negotiations, I have 2-year-old twin boys, Jarrod Jr. and Aiden. And I said, man, I got to pack my family up. So I went down back home. My dad was so excited. My family was so excited. I'm about an hour from the family. Close, but not close. You understand? And so I go find my house, and I buy the house. They build it. I go back home to tell my significant other, we're going to be relocating. We're going to be relocating. Y'all, the closing costs caught me off guard. I ain't ashamed to tell you. I was like, it's a lot of fees associated with moving. I served 16 years in the U.S. Army. And in the U.S. Army, I have been moved all over the world, and it never was my dime. Well, you really don't know how good you got it till you don't got it no more. They done moved me from Germany, Japan, all over the United States, and all it was ever just when the Packers come, you're pointing and then they unpack it, and you just be so excited. So then my first time having to relocate myself was moving from Miami. And I packed up that U-Haul. I even called some frat brothers. I volunteered them to assist me. Well, my cousin, I said, hey, cuz, will you help me drive down to Florida if I fly you from Lafayette, Louisiana to Miami? He said, no problem, Jarrod. You got everything packed up? I said, oh, yeah. So when I get there, y'all, I noticed we get him to the airport. Charles was incredibly nervous. I said, man, you called your wife and told her that we about to go? He said, my phone been on airplane mode since we pulled up to the airport. I was thinking, why would he put it on airplane mode so early? But it's not my business. We kept going. He get on the plane, he's shaking, y'all. I was like, you okay? He said, why would the lady say if we get over water, the seat is a floating device? Why would she even say that? I'm like, Charles, have you ever flew before? He said, never. I said, it explains everything. So I had to look at him. I grabbed his hand. I said, Charles, I promise you something. The plane gonna land because I'm on it. Y'all, I had really just sold it to him good. And we was on the exit road. The lady came over to me and made it worse. She said, in the event of an emergency, I need you two to help me get everybody off the plane safely. He go, what? I say, she said, sir, I'm going to need a verbal yes from you. He was like, Jarrod, what do I say? I said, you heard her. It's yes. And so, y'all, the plane takes off. As it was getting ready to land, I never seen Charles so nervous. He reached over and grabbed my hand and squeezed it. I just squeezed it back. I said, it's going to be okay. We landed. We get to the house. He looks around, he said, Jarrod, ain't nothing packed up. I know, bro, but if I'd have told you, you would have said no. So for the next day, we packed. We packed boxes. We loaded the truck. 16-hour drive to South Louisiana. I got to be honest, Charles is a cigarette smoker. I'm not. So we stopped a lot. And you know, in the middle of the night, the iPhone do you any kind of way. You text people you ain't texted in a while, they can see the last time you text them. So when you're sleepy, you start reaching out to folk you ain't really talked to in a minute. Hey, bro, how you doing? He said, man, I ain't heard from you since 2020. Man, I miss you. And so we get to the house. I felt so cool about it. I don't know if y'all ever backed up a vehicle when you're trying to be cool. You do it like, you don't really use the mirror. You look over your shoulder. I was just thinking my boys was going to run out. She was going to run out. She's going to give me a big old hug, a kiss, and say, baby, you did it. I'm so proud of you. Instead, she said, you know them pictures that was hanging in the living room? Are they on the back of the truck? Because the walls here just so bad. I need you to hang the pictures, baby. I was like, that's what I get after 16 hours? No problem. Relationships are a point system, y'all. I need my points to stay high. So I said, I'm going to hang these pictures. She said, I'm going to run by the grocery store, go make groceries. You just hang the pictures. No problem. So I go get my tool bag. I look for a Phillips head, because a Phillips head is what I needed to hang the pictures. I was missing my Phillips head screwdriver. I probably blame Dr. Cook, because my fraternity brother's always borrowing stuff. But a flathead to get the job done. So I said, I used a flathead screwdriver. I looked in the tool bag, y'all, the flathead was missing too. I said, now what am I going to do now? I did what everybody in this room would do. I went to the kitchen and got a butter knife. Don't act like I'm the only one. I planted my foot. I used that butter knife, y'all. I got the pictures up. Some was crooked, some was straight, but the job was done. I share that before I get into context tonight, because had I inventoried the tools when I didn't need them, I would have known what was missing. And so over this programming month, you've been given tools to navigate some multicultural experiences, to navigate where we came from, where we are now. How can we sustain? What tools do we need if we get into some of our historical challenges? So tonight, my goal over this next amount of time I have with you is to give you some tools. But I need you not to pack them up if you don't need them. Because when you do need them, you'll find yourself fixing Phillips head issues with butter knives. And so I need us to pack these tools up, but inventory them often, share them with some of our other registered student organization colleagues, some of our students, some of our peer faculty. And I want you to just tell them, these are some tools that I gained over the night. And in case I forget where I store them at, I need you to keep them readily available for yourself too. Y'all, we're talking about cancel culture. There's 5 things that I want to address tonight. The first one is, how do we educate? I'm going to talk about the 5 major privileges, according to the academy, not according to my own opinion. And so the absence of justice culture, I would offer to you, birthed cancel culture. And then I would also tell you, we're going to talk about how do you self-identify your privilege. And the 5th thing I'm going to ask you to do is share with me what's the road forward from here. Now that I've been educated, what do I do next? I feel like if you don't have next steps, you find yourself just sitting around kind of like, it was good, but I don't know how to use these tools. So we're going to talk about how do we educate. What's the benefit of educating? Well, first thing we have to do is unpack what cancel culture is. I mean, we got the definition on the screen, but let's talk about it for a second. Cancel culture, I'll be honest with you, cancel culture actually picked up legs when we got social media. I don't believe cancel culture was birthed 5 years ago. I just think it got escalated when we got this thing called social media. You make a post right now with the right hashtag, I won't even read the whole post. I go straight to the hashtag and might just share it. Not even realizing that I may be carrying a message that doesn't align with my moral compass, but the hashtag did. Not even understanding the situation that took place at the moment, but my emotions caused me to hit share. And what happens to it? Whatever it was canceling picks up wheels and legs, and it kind of runs a little bit quicker. Then by association, some folks feel convicted because they're associated with you that they have to hit share too. Not because they believe, but they believe in you. They're like, you know what? If Adam said it, me and Adam been boys 10 years, he mad, I'm supposed to be mad too. I don't even know why I'm mad though, but I'm mad because the hashtag said it was right to be mad. And so the goals of cancel culture is to make something go away, to eliminate something. It's also to ensure that it doesn't take place any longer. So I would offer to you, does it benefit us? Some would say, yeah. I would even argue, you catch me on the right day, I say yes. You catch me on another day, I might say no, depending on the issue at hand. And so how do we educate more? Excuse me. There's some pros and some cons of cancel culture. The first one is it's an avenue or a voice for the disenfranchised. What it also has done is it's increased accountability. People think twice when the cameras are on them. They think twice, and let's be honest, how many folks by show of hand have a smartphone? It don't take much to make a post do it. Even now when people get pulled over by the police, they're like, hold on, I'm trying to record this, 1 second. It just increases the level of accountability. It's a voice for the disenfranchised. It's also a new form of boycott. If I don't want to do it, I'm going to cancel it. I got a list of things that we could even go into this place, but it got some cons. See, social media can be a level of accountability, but can also be a slippery slope that pushes into online bullying. What do you mean you didn't cancel them? You should cancel them. I just can't believe that you support this. Bruh, 5. I didn't agree. Why are you telling me that I have to cancel something I don't agree to? Why would I have to? For me, I wanted to live in East Baton Rouge. East Baton Rouge was the goal, y'all. But East Baton Rouge, the same house I purchased, was $897,000. So I moved to Denham Springs and got the house for $600,000. They said, why would you move to Denham Springs? In 1987, that was the Ku Klux Klan headquarters. Because I bought the house in 2023 and it's not. Like, Jarrod, I can't believe you would have the nerve to live in Denham Springs. In the 80s, you couldn't walk in Denham Springs. Well, I was born in the 80s. I wasn't walking yet. Well, I get your point. I saved me and my family 200 racks. I lived there, and I lived there happy. So, we've canceled Denham Springs for years. I'm like, thank you for doing it because you brought the property to a point I could afford it. But I'm not canceling where I live. And so I offer to you, it can be a slippery slope. It can also lack participatory change. What it is I call it seasonal cancellation. I cancel in the moment, but I don't believe in the cancellation. I believe in the affiliation of the cancellation. And when it's not popular to cancel anymore, I'm cool with doing it anyway. Oh, you know it's real because how many times have the NFL been canceled, but the Super Bowl rating's still high? Right? Oh, I'm frustrated. I can't believe they do that. But guess what? If my team playing, I'll be like, and I'm being honest, it happened with me. I'm a huge Saints fan. Huge. Ride or die. Drew Brees said some unfavorable comments. I was like, his media person was on top of it. Next day, they dropped an apology. Man, he donated to the community, went to Xavier, went to Southern, dropped big checks. That next Sunday, I was mad when he said it, but that next Sunday, I was like, you better throw that ball. We need to win this game. Come on, Sean Payton, let him run the play. I forgive him. I forgive him on behalf of everybody. The post I thought about making, I left it in the draft. The Saints need to win a Super Bowl. Participatory change. What happens is, good country folk in Louisiana, what we say is you're throwing rocks, but you live in a glass house. So what happens is before you decide to cancel, we also have to do some internal evaluation, some self-reflection. That's what I offer to you. And so that's kind of where we're going to go into this space. The Academy states that there's 5 major privileges. These are the 5, in no specific order. We have gender privilege, we have socioeconomic privilege, heterosexual privilege, we have white privilege, and religious privilege. I'm going to unpack these with tangible examples, but they're just relatable examples from the lens of Jarrod, if you'd allow me to unpack. So I moved to South Louisiana. Y'all, I did 16 years in the Army, deployed 4 times, 3 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. In 2010, I was shot in my abdomen in Afghanistan, and I had to be medically retired. It was a life-changing experience because I was so close to 20 years in the military. I was like, what am I going to do for retirement? I didn't understand medical retirement. They did the math, and I did it. Came out pretty decent. I entered higher education and kind of just stayed there. Through that journey, though, I began to do a lot of reflection, but one thing that didn't change, Jarrod still wake up with the roosters. I wake up early, y'all, super early. And so am I waking up every morning? My neighbor, I'm so happy, Travis wakes up too. Now, don't y'all tell nobody at home. I tell my significant other, baby, I go running every morning. But really, I run to the stop sign, and then me and my homie go walking. And we just be talking. And Travis used to get up every morning at 5:30, never rung a doorbell. We just knew to walk out to the end of the driveway. We did our thing. I'd stretch because in case she come out, I want her to see me really about to get down. And then we get to the stop sign, I'd be out of breath. I'd be like, I ain't in the Army no more. Come on, bro, let's walk. He quit showing up. Now I realize I traveled to about 86 schools a semester. So sometimes, I don't be there too. So when he quit showing up, I didn't take it hard. But crawfish season, he came by the house and ate some crawfish. And he had a good little amount on his table. Some turkey necks, some corn, some potatoes. I say, well, Travis, can I offer you a beverage? Walk with me to the cooler. He comes to the cooler. I say, bro, why you don't work out with your boy no more? He said, Jarrod, I was like, get it out. Eating up all my crawfish and don't work out with me no more. He said, sometimes when you don't come, I would go walking with my partner. My partner identifies as transgender. Some people said some distasteful things out the window one morning to my partner. And to be quite honest, what turned into verbal harassment was threats for physical abuse. Then we were watching the news one day, and I noticed that someone who identified similar to my partner was murdered just by their identity. And I just could not take that risk of, if I wasn't going to work out with my partner, I couldn't justify working out with you. And I didn't think you'd understand, so I just quit coming because I didn't know how to tell you. I said, where your partner at right now? Let's get crawfish. Go get him. He go get his partner. I said, what's happening? Man, I never met you. Get you some crawfish. He said, I didn't think I was invited. Oh, but it's not heterosexual crawfish. It's everybody crawfish. Get you some crawfish. Check this out. Pull your phones out, my dog. Here go the code to get in my garage. I got a full gym in here. Ain't nobody going to bother you when y'all come up in here and work out every morning, even if I'm out of town. Just text me. I'll let her know y'all in here getting in the end. You ain't got to trip on that. And when we go walking, you won't come. We don't be talking about nobody but y'all. He said, don't tell her that. Don't tell her that. Hey, bro, it be like that. Why do I say that? And when I initially heard it, I was shocked because I recognize I have heterosexual privilege. And I don't wonder if I'm going to walk around the neighborhood or somebody going to tell me something about my identity. I'm just walking. I'm country. I keep a little stick, but it's for the dogs. It ain't for nobody else. And so I recognized in that moment I was working through a lens of privilege that was much different. My good sister, do you mind sharing your name? Shakiva, what's your major? Human health and performance. First, let's celebrate that, y'all. Give a round of applause. And so, what's your aspirations with career-wise? What do you intend to do with the profession? Physician assistant within the Army. Now, I would offer to you, she didn't use the Army as context. If we both applied for the same role, Department of Labor said there's a 36% chance based off my gender identity I would get the job offer first. That's been the quantitative analysis that's been done to show the gap of equity when it comes to the job space and the workforce entry. I recognize in this space I have gender privilege. Religious privilege. I'm a man of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. I was so excited when I joined. Me and my 7 line brothers, we were going to a regional conference. Y'all, we ain't had no whole lot of money. I remember when my advisor bought our plane tickets. We were so proud to walk. We had all our letters on. But my line brother, Muhammad, he did not have his letters on. He had his traditional dress up based on his religious identity. A lady says, Muhammad, she says, I hope the plane lands safe if he's going to be on it. I look back, I said, who's she talking to? He said, bro, no, not in the airport. I'm like, no, this got to be addressed. Excuse me, why would the plane not land safe? You know, look at him. Is you all right? And I'll be honest, bro, I was so hurt for him. I'm like, Muhammad. He said, I get it all the time. He had normalized. And to be quite honest, as a Christian man, ain't nobody ever wondered if a plane was going to land safe if I'm on it. But I didn't realize the level of privilege I had. My first institution I worked at was an HBCU. And when meetings would start, y'all, we would open with prayer. We didn't even do a check across the room to be sure everybody was Christian. We just prayed to the Jesus that I serve. And when we did the prayer, no one ever shared, oh my God. But it took one summer when I was serving as an adjunct faculty member. I noticed that students were eating a cold box lunch. And I said, why would you be eating that when I just left the calf? He said, the calf closed, but it closed before my fast would end for Ramadan. And so I said, well, what do you eat? He said, well, we mentioned it, and they sit some sandwiches outside the calf when they close for us. I said, this ain't adding up. At that moment, I recognized inherently I've been a benefactor of my religious privilege. And I was like, man, this ain't it. I got to say something. They pay the same room and board that someone else does with different favor. You telling me they got to eat a cold sandwich? Nah, this ain't going to fly. Religious privilege. Socioeconomic privilege. Y'all, I don't know how many faculty and staff we have in here, but y'all know to ask for a budget change mid-year. Man, you do better just saying you're going to run a marathon with the shape I'm in. Not good. So I had to request a budget change through begging and borrowing. My provost allowed it to take place, and I got to hire a coordinator that I needed to just divvy up some work a little bit more. I put the job out. I'm a public institution, so we have to do 3 rounds of interviews. I got to be honest, after the first round, I kind of knew who I wanted, but you can't say that. So after 3 rounds, we finally onboard Monica. Tremendous staff member. In fact, she goes, Mr. Benjamin, do you remember me? I'm like, mm-mm. She's like, you taught me 4 years ago, quantitative methods. I'm like, ooh, well, she know my teaching style, know my work ethic. This is going to be a solid relationship. That military in me kicked in, though, y'all. The first day, she was 23 minutes late to work. I'm like, I know you lying. The second day, she was 16 minutes late to work. I counted. The third day, I moved my chair from my office and put it in front of her office. And I sat until she came 11 minutes late. I said, Monica, you like coffee? She said, I do. I said, can I treat you to some coffee? She said, sure. We walked to Starbucks. I said, order whatever you like. She ordered a large coffee. When she had the first sip, I waited till her to swallow it. Goop, goop, goop. I said, why you always late? Now, I bought the coffee. I ain't going to beat around the bush. She goes, Jarrod, I'm a single mother, and by the time I drop my daughter off and I get in that Miami traffic, it take me an hour and 20 minutes to get to work. I said, where you live? She said, Miramar. I said, I live in Miramar. I get on the turnpike. I paid a toll. 26 minutes later, I'm at work. Monica, I need you to do better. That's unacceptable. And I walk off. By the time I get to my office, it hit me. Whoa, I just gave her a solution through my lens of socioeconomic privilege. I make $62,000 more than Monica a year. How can I expect that she has the capacity to pay $230 a month in tolls? So I go back to her office, but anybody who ever had their butt chewed before, you know it's different when you talk after that. I'm like, hey, Monica. She, yes, sir. I'm like, no, Monica, chill. I'm sorry. I wanted to talk to you about how I addressed things earlier. I was wrong. A real leader don't need cancel culture to admit they're wrong. They can admit they're wrong when they're wrong. She goes, well, what do you mean? I said, the solution I gave you earlier was through the lens of socioeconomic privilege. I noticed you live only a few minutes from my house. How about Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays? I tap the horn, and you hop in with me. I get it. Don't nobody want to ride to work with their supervisor. I wouldn't. I said, so you get the chance to say no if you don't want it. She said, are you serious? Y'all, I was nervous because I didn't run it by HR. I just wanted to come up with a solution. I felt so bad. She goes, I would love that. I'm like, whew. As I was walking out, I said, hold on. Be sure I get it all out there. Now, Monica, I listen to 12 minutes of trap music, 10 minutes of gospel, and 3 minutes of silence. Is that going to be okay for the ride? She said, I think I can handle it. I pulled up jamming Lil Baby. She was like, oh, okay, I can do this. We get to work for 6 months. I finally negotiated her get a little increase in her salary. She comes to the office one day. She said, Jarrod, I want to thank you for the last 6 months helping me get to work, but thank you for that boost in the salary. I don't need to ride no more. I think I'm going to take the turnpike myself. I said, man, I'm glad it worked out. In that moment, I recognized socioeconomic privilege does exist. And sometimes we'll normalize our privilege, and to be quite honest, all the solutions I offer will be through my lens of privilege. We talked about gender privilege, socioeconomic privilege, heterosexual privilege, religious privilege. Now we have white privilege. An example that I find appropriate tonight is there was a biracial couple. A black woman, wife, a white man, husband. He decides, you know, we got to sell this house, baby. He said, you sure right. She's like, yeah, I want to upgrade. Sound like my house. We just bought it, want to upgrade already. Come on now. So he says, let's get it appraised so we'll know how much we can sell it for. They do the appraisal. It appraises for $163,000. He said, this don't add up. We bought it for $160,000. I put marble counters in here. I put a pool in the back. I put fences in the back. Privacy fence. Why would it only be worth $3,000 more? This ain't even with the comparables in the neighborhood. Call that company back. That next Tuesday they come back. He decided to be a little quicker. He took everything off the walls that identified them as a mixed family. It appraised for almost $290,000. I'm using these examples to give you tangible thoughts on how privilege works, even when the privilege is inherent. Why do I say inherent? That means you ain't had to do nothing. Inherently, you get the privilege by existence, by effort. My identity gives me some of these privileges that are listed on this screen. Inherently, I benefit from some of them. You know, I don't know who's going to see my resume before they see yours, but inherently, my identity may get me an offer. And so what I offer to you, for us to be able to really understand how do we educate folks before we cancel them, we have to do some self-evaluation and some self-reflection. So for me, I tell you I identify with 4 of these privileges: gender, socioeconomic, religious, and heterosexual privilege. I'm not asking for you. I want this to be a safe space, so please don't yell out what privileges you have. But I want you to do some self-thought right now. Based off the examples I gave you, what privileges do you believe you have? And I would offer to you, if this room was the room set up in a way where I would ask everyone to hold up the hands of which privileges they have, maybe how you see them is not how they're privileged. We can make assumptions based off how people look or their status or who they are, that, man, they got all the privilege. And then they would raise their hand and they had a number 2, and you'd be like, only 2? And so I offer to you, sometimes the lack of no causes cancellation when we just need education. Now, I do tell you, the absence of justice culture caused the level of accountability where we increased cancel culture in a response mechanism. But also, cancel culture has existed in spaces where we should have chosen to educate first. Now, if you refuse the education, you cancel them then. Me, myself, when I was going to get my master's degree, I had to learn a hard lesson. As a first-gen college student, I just didn't know certain things. I'm from South Louisiana, grew up in a very faith-based home. I just didn't know certain things. I was in the Army serving during a do not ask, do not tell era. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just telling you that was my experience. So my grandfather used to always tell me, when you need something, you don't just say yes. You put sir on the back of that thing if you're talking to me, son. When you're talking to your grandma, you don't say yes. You say ma'am. Yes, ma'am on the back of that thing. You hear me? Yes, sir. It stuck with me for life. So here I am, writing one of my faculty members, my first class in my MBA program. I'm super excited. And I ended with saying, yes, ma'am, because I made an assumption based off the name. The faculty member writes me back and said, I'm not a ma'am. I wrote the faculty member back and said, I apologize, sir. I'm looking at Julie. I just made an assumption, poor assumption. Wrote back and said, I'm not a sir. You know what? You need to come see me. Y'all, I'm like, this ain't the impression I want to make. I'm just getting in the program. So I go up there, didn't schedule no office call. They said open door policy. The faculty member made me wait 45 minutes. Finally gets me in the room, said, I didn't even get to say anything. I stood there, took a 30-minute butt chewing. I took it all, too, because I was like, I just don't know what to say back. Julie says, what do you have to say for yourself, Jarrod? I go, my family's from Gonzales, Louisiana. I'm a member of the Church of God in Christ. I served in the U.S. Army. I assure you, when I wrote you, I thought I was writing from the highest regards of respect, and I made a poor decision. But if you're willing to educate me on proper pronoun use, I'll read whatever you send me so I never make this mistake again. Julie looks at me and says, are you serious? Dead serious. I was wrong. She gave me 8 articles, 2 YouTube videos. Y'all, I had so much homework, all I did was watch the videos. I couldn't read the articles. Don't y'all tell Julie. But since then, because I chose to be educated, Julie didn't cancel me. Julie actually wrote my letter of recommendation, and I'm at the end of my PhD program because of Julie. I offer to you, when I chose to offer, please educate me, Julie immediately decided not to cancel me. So before you're canceling folks, have you offered education? Because some people's cultural makeup produces a level of ignorance that sometimes they're willing to own. And in that moment, I was just willing to own it. Like, my bad, I didn't know it was going to be this serious. I actually was trying to be extra polite because I needed a favor. But it turned south for me. But it was a learning moment. And so I offer to you, educate. Educate before we cancel. And if education is refused, be like, well, then fine then. Let me get this hashtag ready. You have to transform leadership experiences into life practices. I want to offer to you, leadership and life practices are synonymous. You're going to have to be a leader in some capacity of your life. I pride myself in being a leader at home. I'm hoping that my twin boys are like, when they see daddy, they see leadership. I try to be a good sterling example for them. I try to help around the house even when I'm tired. In my institution, I volunteered myself in the academy and spaces that really don't need my help, but I want to be a leader. I want to help. I write grants. I do research. I do things because I realize leadership is a part of my life practice. But what I've noticed is, in response to cancel culture, I tell folks sometimes you just got to tell your story. When someone hears your story, they're able to understand why your actions took place. When Julie offered to cancel me, I told my story. In fact, when she heard my story, she didn't even care about my ignorance to the pronoun. She said, I want to thank you for your service, and she reached to hug me. I didn't even know what to call him. Like, Julie, what should I say? What is the pronoun? I just want to get it right. She said, I was really giving you a hard time. I'm like, Julie, you got to be joking. I walked over here scared. She said, but you got to do better. And so I offer to you, in response to cancel culture, the first thing I give you as a tool tonight is tell your story. The story matters. The next thing is, did they listen? Oh, y'all know the difference between hearing somebody and listening to somebody. I don't know how many people in here have children or vice versa. If you ever heard your mama or your daddy telling you something. I done heard my mama a lot, but I can't promise you every time I listened. And so be sure they heard and listened to your story. So you ask them, what did I share? Because sometimes when you're so furious and you have already made your mind up, I'm going to cancel them. I'm going to cancel you. It don't matter what you say. I heard what I wanted to hear. I heard what I wanted to hear. So you ask, what did you hear from my story? And then are they willing to share their story that made them so strong in their stands of cancel culture and cancellation in that moment? Did it change the situation? So I asked y'all, after I shared my story, did it change me and Julie's outcome? Not only has Julie become a friend, Julie has came to significant events for me. My research design, when I presented it to my main professor, Julie flew all the way to Jackson, Mississippi. She said, I'm coming to do this. You better do it. She was like, I know his framework. I'm like, Julie, it's my briefing. Don't say it. I know his research design. Girl, shut up now. She's proud. We've built a bond through once was supposed to be a cancellation. And so I offer to you, life practices and leadership require us to exercise some courage. And in that courage, sometimes we got to be willing to tell our story, right? And so for me, how many people recognize these three banks? I know me, when I was a sophomore in college, I banked with Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo treated me half good. I worked at financial aid. I was a work study student. They was paying me $5.15 an hour. I can get 20 hours of pay period. That money didn't go far, y'all. Sometimes my account would get in the negative. And I'd have to call my parents. If you have parents like mine, they'd mail you a money order. It comes so slow. I said, Grandpa, why you mail money orders? He said, I hope next time you change your mind and spend your money better. I hope it came slow. So for me, I got my little Chevrolet Cavalier. I remember getting in my Cavalier, and one of my friends was walking by. He said, can you run me by the store? I said, sure. I get in the Cavalier, and y'all, my gas light was on. Maybe no one can relate to this, but when your gas light on, there's certain things you don't do. First thing is you don't blow air conditioning in your car. No, you're going to let your air stay off. Mine had been on for a while, so I also didn't play no music. I don't know if it helps, but it made me feel better about my situation. Also, I told my friends, since you want to tell me my gas light on, don't do no talking. We ain't going to be talking, because I feel like if you talk, it might use more gas. I was going downhill. I took my foot off the gas because you coast. You don't use up that gas for downhill. I see the head nod. Y'all can feel. Thank you. Decided to whip that thing in. I saw Chase. I walked in. Chase had some peppermints in a bowl. They was free with ink pens. Free ink pens write the best. I grabbed 3 peppermints for me and 3 for my girlfriend because I'm not stingy and I wanted to be sure I came home with something. I had $10 in my pocket. The lady says, sir, can I help you with something? I ignored her because the air conditioner just felt so good. I was just trying to get a little more of it. She goes, no, sir, can I help you? Give me a second. I said, can I help you? Yes, ma'am, I'm a college student and I'm trying to open up a bank account. She goes, okay. That would be $25 for a checking and $25 for a savings. Y'all, I pretended like I had a phone call. Hello? I walked clean up out there and got in the car. I ain't had that kind of money. Get in the car, my homeboy say, bro, you going to just be driving all over the city. You ain't got no gas. Ain't nobody ask you. We going to drive. Go back to campus, but on the way in my peripheral, I saw Bank of America. So what I did, I turned that thing, parked it, went inside. They had lollipops. They was free. I grabbed 3 for me and 3 for my girlfriend because I'm not stingy. And I was like, man, I'm so excited. But I ain't going to waste nobody's time. So I went straight to the lady. Ma'am, I'm a college student. I need a bank account. She said, you want a checking and a savings? I said, well, it depends. She says, $5 to open up a checking and $5 for a savings. Woo, yeah, let me sign up. She said, we're even going to take your picture today for your debit card. I'm ready. She said, on the count of 3, take the picture. I sign the stuff. She even print my card, y'all. I'm feeling real good. I get ready to walk out. She says, who does your mother bank with? I said, Bank of America. She said, really? Let's call her. I don't know why we would do that. She said, I want to call her and ask her would she do $50 overdraft protection for your account maybe twice a month. That's not a good idea. I don't want to do that. She says, no, trust me. I don't know you. She said, no, please trust me. I'm looking at the lady, making some assumptions. I'm thinking about my mom. My mom's, apostolic pastor in South Louisiana. I don't think you can really, but has anybody ever had to call their parents when they need something? You don't start complimenting them this week. You start buttoning them up last week. Even today, I do it. Be like, Mama, you was on Facebook, you popping. Girl, you look good. I hit like and share. Girl, keep on looking. Okay, I miss you. So I had to call my mom because the lady kind of had pressed me. So when you call your parents, you have to call them in a way that they could relate. To my students in the room, you know, when we send our grades to our family, you know, you take that little picture, mama, look, my grades popping. She'd be like, ain't you taking 4 classes, only 3 grades? I don't know about that last one. They ain't posted it yet. You like, did I crop it good? Did I crop it good? I see some head nods, right? And so I call my mom. I want to talk to her on her level. So I call my mama. She answers the phone. Y'all help me out. I'm going to give you a count to 3. Y'all just say ring, ring, ring. I'm going to do the hello. You got that? 1, 2, 3. Hello? She said, hey, baby. I said, God is good. She says, all the time. I said, amazing grace. She said, how sweet to sound. I said, mama, he's a lily in the valley. She said, boy, you about to make me shout. Do you need something? Well, in fact, the lady want to talk to you about something. I passed the phone. The lady looks at me and says, thank you. I'm looking like she don't even know. She goes, ma'am, Pastor Benjamin, your son came in here today, and I just want to sow a seed into his life that's going to change his life and increase his territory. I think God brought your son to me today. I looked at her and said, you good at this. My mom said, what does he need? She says, just $50 simple from you to sow into his life so that he can graduate timely and do amazing things for the world. She goes, really? Put him back on the phone. I don't want to be back on the phone. It wasn't even my idea for the call. No, thank you. She says, your mom want to talk to you. I'm like, tell her I don't feel good. I get on the phone, my mama said, Jarrod, the one, you know when they talking through their teeth is real. I'm like, ma'am? She goes, why you had that lady call me? Don't be playing with me, boy. I'm going to let it slide this time. But when you get in the car, you call your mom, all right? I said, that's yes? She said, yeah. The lady says, told you, good job. I did the math. 50 plus 10. I called my girlfriend, baby, we got $60. We going to the movies and Chick-fil-A. Based off what I did, I made a decision based on an every 2-week pay. Not every month, not every quarter, not every year, every 2-week pay. I went and I got information to see if it aligned with my capacity. Then I made a decision based off the information I collected. And while Wells Fargo didn't work coupled with my accountability, I didn't cancel Wells Fargo. I just found another bank that fit my needs and aligned with my capacity. While Chase was outside of my budget, I pretend like I had a phone call, but the truth is I didn't make a hashtag and say, Chase don't support college students. I just realized it didn't align with my capacity and my needs. I got to Bank of America and just so happened it was within my capacity. It had my needs and even knew how to do a little more outreach to ensure I had adequate wraparound services to be sure I was successful. Now, to be honest with you, I didn't even make a post and say, Wells Fargo is for the people. I just simply realized it took a little research and education to find what fit me and realized that everything wasn't for me and it didn't require cancel culture to make a change. What am I asking you to do? Sometimes before we hit like or share, just because the hashtag got a little rhythm to it, dig a little bit deeper. Dig a little bit deeper and see what really aligns with what you need. Sometimes it's not about you, your culture, or an intent to disenfranchise you. Sometimes it's just simply, it just don't align with our capacity. It don't align with our needs. Now, I'll be honest with you, there's going to be some times where statements are said that were poor context, and cancel culture has been accountable enough to make people make a decision in a moment to fix their errors. There's been some times where cancel culture just cancels and nothing changes. To be quite honest, I've seen several changes. Remember when Starbucks, right after George Floyd was murdered, Starbucks had made a decision to say you cannot wear Black Lives Matter pins on your uniform. They took a strong stance about it. All of my friends, we got serious, but we're not drinking no Starbucks. I was like, you're right, I'm going to get me a Keurig. Went and got me a Keurig, and when they wasn't looking, I went on Amazon, I bought Starbucks pods. Because that Starbucks coffee was good to me. Guess what they did? They made a statement, they apologized, they even came up with support mechanisms to support all the community's inclusiveness. Y'all, I went to Starbucks so fast and forgave them. And what I noticed in that moment is sometimes our cancellation is performative, not action-oriented. When it's performative, that means it's for a season. It has an expiration date. But when it's action-oriented, if you provide action steps that bring quantitative and qualitative change, we got to be willing to evolve, because change has taken place throughout years that has allowed this room to have different identities in this room even for this event. And so how do we ensure that we don't allow this slippery slope to become our only solution mechanism? We have to push the narrative of education. We have to push the narrative of saying, have we examined capacity? So for me, I'll be honest with you. When I first started speaking schools around the nation, I didn't have a whole lot of money, so I used cheaptickets.com. For some of my people who don't remember the airline, I was using AirTran. They were so affordable. Through mergers or whatever happened to them, they gone, but I sure miss them. And then when I finally got a little piece of change, I noticed the people on the exit row had a whole lot more leg room than Jarrod. Even first class, to be honest with you, they were sitting way more comfortable than me, so I said, I'm going to get me one of them exit row seats. I didn't know it came with all the responsibility of, having to be there for folk. You remember Charles? He made it, though, y'all. It came with a lot of responsibility. In fact, they went a little more with the briefing. They didn't just say, I need your help. She began to use hand signals. The lane will light up and take you to the nearest exits. If you need a mask or fall, put yours on first before you help your neighbor. When the doors open, I'm going to need you to help get folk off. And you have a responsibility. Are you willing and able in the event of an emergency? I need a verbal yes or no. I was like, man, exit row come with responsibility. Well, as leaders in the room, because we've come this far, I offer to you, each of you on the exit row today. Are you willing and able, when your friends make a post and say we're going to cancel them, that you dig a little bit deeper? Are you willing and able, when accountability is needed, we exercise accountability through intentional conversations, and maybe we don't use the slippery soap every time? While it is effective and it holds folks accountable, maybe it's not our only choice. And so for me, I say leadership requires us to be willing and able to support others even through our differences. Leadership requires us to not just be allies about our learned culture, but also ask folks about their lived culture. For me, I recognize advocacy and allyship has become a go-to term, but when we unpack it sometimes, I don't know if we're providing tangible support based off of the data that we're collecting, if we're not collecting it from folks who live through the experiences. And so I've had to have conversations with some of my leadership to say, I recognize that you serve as an ally and advocate because you've learned some of my struggle, but some days I have to live my struggle. And so hearing the story is important, because now you're not just an advocate or an ally based off learned experiences. You allies and advocates based off folks' lived experiences. See, I don't live what my neighbor's story is. So when he told me about his story, now I could properly be an ally, because now the lived experience was shared with me, not the textbook learned experience. And so it's important that we sit on the exit row and serve, because that's the opposite side of canceling folks with immediate cancellation without education. When can we start this education? I offer to you, you can start it right now. Anybody recognize my friend on the screen? Oh, yeah, Steve Urkel. Yeah, Family Matters was my show, y'all. It came on at 7:30 every Friday. My mama used to pop one bowl of popcorn for me and my siblings. It was whoever could get the most popcorn in their mouth first, y'all. But on this show, something unique took place. What took place is all I ever knew was Laura and Steve Urkel. I never knew the why behind the show. His name is actually Jaleel White. His dad was a post office worker. And as a post office worker, his dad had already determined what his job would be. He says, son, I talked to the postmaster, and when I retire, he going to give you my route. He's like, Dad, but I got this newspaper, and they got a casting call, and I really want to go. He said, son, I talked to the postmaster. He said, I already know that I can hire your son and give him this is a good route, son. He said, Dad, I just want to go to the casting call. I really want to audition for this show. He said, hop in the mail truck in the morning at 6 a.m. I'll drop you off. He hops in the mail truck. That evening, he picks up Jaleel. He said, son, did you make the role? He said, no, I didn't make it. He said, I told you. He gets home. He was so sad. That next morning, he go grab a little oatmeal, put something hot on his stomach. He jumped right back in the mail truck. His dad said, is there a new casting call? He said, no, I just want to be there. So he just sat at the door and mumbled the lines that other folks was giving that made the show, and he did that for 2 weeks. When the ratings began to fail, at face value, as I was reading the article, I said just the actors were going to lose their job. Forgot about the custodial staff. I forgot about the wardrobe staff. I forgot about the camera crew. A lot of folk were about to be affected because the ratings were so low. The director says, we can make this thing a sitcom. People love to laugh. But I don't have time to do another casting call. What are we going to do? So what happens the next morning? Jaleel White walks in. He says, I can use him. Check this out. Pull your pants up high as you can. Walk across stage and say, did I do that? He did it. It was a live audience. Everybody went insane. Loved it. Oh, man, he had a crush on Laura. Laura ain't like him back. She had a little sister named Julie. A lot of us won't remember Julie because after the 3rd season, they wrote Julie off the show to be able to afford Steve Urkel on the show. Mama Winslow never had a funeral. Remember the grandma? They wrote her out off the show after the 5th season because he had an alter ego named Stefan. And he said, if I got to be 2 people, I got to get 2 checks. And so they had to make room. Why do I share this story in my closing with you today? When you are strong enough as a leader to look at alternate choices besides just the easy road that makes slippery slopes, sometimes you got to be determined. Sometimes you're going to get some no's, but you still got to show up. And so I offer to you, because he showed up, opportunity met him at the door, even when he got no the first time. And so as leaders, when we're standing up for what is right, when we're educating folks based off our own self-evaluation, even when we're having hard conversations with ourselves in the mirror and saying, Jarrod, you gave Monica a solution through socioeconomic privilege. Man, I'm the boss. I ain't going back over there. No, you're a leader. Go back and address it. And because of that, showing up in that kind of determination, man, I Googled him. How about last year he made $1.9 million off the reruns that they playing in Germany, not even in English. You know when they be talking over it like, 1.9 million, and his parents had already determined he was going to be a post office worker. Well, ain't nothing wrong with being a postmaster. I offer to you. He followed his passion, did not let no stop him and close a door. He looked at it as an obstacle and was a leader and went around the obstacle and said, I still can show up and be a leader. And so I offer to you, what will you do to ensure, even when the challenge of no comes, we don't use a hashtag to fix it. We use intentional leadership to fix it. We have intentional conversations. We tell our story. We ask folks, did they hear it? And then we sit back to see if it builds change. And if it doesn't, I didn't say get rid of cancel culture. I said cautiously look at cancel culture. If you need that level of accountability, use it, but don't let it become the slippery slope that fixes all situations. Can we make that commitment? Little head nod. And so I offer to you, I don't think that this may be the fix for it all. But I do believe this is a functional start for us to get better at it. And I can recognize in this moment that for me, it's going to take a lot more to change everything. But I recognize if I can just change some things, I've done my part as a leader. And how many folks have an iPhone by show of hands? You know, them droids, we have to talk about you different. Y'all be them green text messages in the family group chat, right? And so an iPhone, the components of the charger is a block, yes or no? Yeah? You got a cable, right? And you got a phone. Now, I would offer to you, with the cable alone, you can't charge the phone. You need the block still. The block and the cable alone, you can't charge the phone. So if we continue to cancel, we're breaking a part of the connectivity for change. When sometimes we have to educate so that we can stay connected to the cord connects to the block, and the block can stay connected to the change. Because I'll be honest with you, if all I got is a cord, man, if my phone dead, I might be late to class. But like, I ain't gonna be able to text. Hold on now, let me just wait a second. Put that thing in the cigarette lighter. But I offer to you, it's bigger than just having a portion of the story. We gotta be connected to the entire story so that we can be instrumental and vital to change agent behavior. University of Tennessee at Martin, I thank you for the opportunity, and I thank you for listening to me as we take a cautious look at cancel culture. You have a great evening. If so willing, there's a QR code, because I believe every time an institution invests in me, I love to give feedback. If you're willing, volunteer basis, to scan the QR code, it'll ask you a few questions about the content tonight to see if it was enjoyable, interactive, or even gave you a tool or two to put in your toolkit. And we'll provide that data to your Multicultural Affairs office so that they can see that it was a return on their investment. Thank you again for the time. You have a great evening.
Thank you.
The code is TALK, T-A-L-K, after you scan the code.
Awesome. We do have a few moments for question and answer. So if you have any questions for Mr. Benjamin about his speech tonight, his talk about cancel culture, this is your opportunity to do that.
I'd just like to make a comment. Being an academic and having the opportunity to sit before very talented individuals, your speech this evening, your engagement was bar none amazing. And we are so blessed to have had you and your message tonight. Thank you very much.
Any other comments? All right, well, let's give another round of applause to Mr. Benjamin for his time tonight. We do have several more events, as I want to remind you once more. On Monday, we have Ms. Kimberly Bugg coming in to Watkins. Tuesday is Jamel Hill, and on Wednesday, Tamika Mallory, with a few more events following that. But if you don't have anything to do on those days, invite your colleagues, invite your friends, invite your peers to join us here for the Civil Rights Conference. Y'all have a great night. See you.